Hey guys! So today, I want to talk about a time when I had no idea how to respond to awkward personal questions in English. You know the ones, when someone asks something way too personal, and you're just sitting there thinking, why are we talking about this? Yeah, I used to panic, say something weird, or just laugh nervously. But after going through these uncomfortable situations so many times, I finally figured out how to handle them without making things worse. So let me take you back to one of the most uncomfortable moments of my life. It was a family dinner, everyone was relaxed, eating, chatting, and suddenly, out of nowhere, my aunt, who I swear has a radar for this kind of thing, leaned in and asked, "So, when are you getting married?" I swear I almost choked on my food. I wasn't even dating anyone at the time, and I definitely wasn't expecting to discuss my non-existent wedding plans over a plate of biryani. But instead of handling it smoothly, I just laughed awkwardly and mumbled, I don't know, maybe someday." Big mistake. Huge. Because, of course, she didn't stop there. "But don't you want to get married soon? You're not getting any younger," she added, as if I had an expiration date stamped on my forehead. At this point, I felt like I was in one of those job interviews where you have no idea what the right answer is. I looked around for help, but my cousins were too busy pretending they didn't hear anything. So I just nodded and prayed someone would change the topic. But nope. My uncle decided to join in. "You know, if you wait too long, all the good ones will be taken." I wanted to disappear into my chair. And as if that wasn't enough, another cousin turned to me and asked, "By the way, have you found a job yet?" I felt like I had just been hit with a double knockout. The truth was, I had been job hunting for a while, but things weren't working out as fast as I'd hoped. And now, in front of a whole audience, I had to explain why I was still unemployed. I panicked and blurted out something like, "Still looking, haha." Which, of course, only led to more unwanted career advice from people who had never actually switched jobs in their entire lives. That night, I went home feeling embarrassed and annoyed. Not because I wasn't married or didn't have a job yet, but because I had let myself feel pressured into answering questions I wasn't even comfortable with. I realized that I needed a better way to respond, something that wouldn't make things awkward but would also let me keep my boundaries. Fast forward a few months later, and I was at another family gathering. And like clockwork, the moment I sat down, my aunt smiled and asked, "So, when are you getting married?" But this time, I didn't panic. I just smiled back and said, "Oh, I'm still waiting for a good plot twist in my love story." And just like that, she laughed, shook her head, and moved on. No follow-up questions, no interrogation. A few minutes later, someone else asked me about my job search. And instead of mumbling something awkward, I shrugged and said, "Still in the process." Good things take time, right? Again, no awkward silence, no unnecessary advice. Just a nod and a change of topic. And that's when it hit me. The way you respond changes the way people react. Here's what I learned and how you can do the same. One trick I learned is to keep it light when someone asks something personal. You don't have to give them your life story. Sometimes, a simple and casual response is all you need. For example, if someone asks, "Did you pass that exam you were studying so hard for?" And I didn't pass, I just shrug and say, "No luck this time, but it's all part of the process. I'll keep working at it." This keeps the situation positive, avoids any awkwardness, and allows me to move on without getting into too much detail. It's a simple way to handle uncomfortable questions while staying upbeat. There are also times when you just don't want to answer at all, and that's completely fine. I've learned that you can still be polite while shutting down a conversation. For instance, if someone asks about my relationship status and I don't feel like discussing it, I can simply say, "I like to keep that part of my life private, but I'm doing great, thanks for asking." This sets a clear boundary without making the conversation uncomfortable. By politely steering things away from a topic I don't want to discuss, I avoid unnecessary pressure while still being respectful. Another approach is being deliberately vague when someone asks about something you don't want to go into. If someone asks, "So, are you moving abroad?" and I don't want to get into the details, I can just say, "Maybe. Still figuring things out." This keeps them from pressing for more details and leaves the conversation open but non-specific. Similarly, if someone asks about my career plans and I'm not ready to reveal specifics, I can say, "I've got a few ideas, but let's see where life takes me." These responses don't invite follow-up questions, and the topic usually fades away naturally. Humor also plays a big role in handling awkward questions. Sometimes, the best way to deal with an uncomfortable inquiry is to respond in a light, unexpected way. It's not about making jokes for the sake of it, but rather shifting the mood and taking the pressure off. For example, if someone asks, "Why do you eat so slowly?" instead of feeling weird or defensive, I just shrug and say, "I like to give my food the attention it deserves." If I feel like being extra playful, I'll add, "I watched a documentary on mindful eating, and now I take it very seriously." Humor like this helps the conversation feel more relaxed, and usually, people just laugh and move on without making it a big deal. There are also times when you need to be firm but polite, especially if someone is really pushing. In these situations, I've learned to simply respond directly, but still kindly. For example, if someone asks, "When are you going to buy a house?" and I feel it's too personal, I'll say, "I'd rather not get into that, but thanks for your interest." This way, I politely shut down the question without sounding rude or defensive. If someone keeps pressing into my career plans and I'm not ready to share, I might smile and say, "I think we're getting into a deep topic. Let's change the subject, tell me about your latest trip." It keeps things light and helps steer the conversation in a new direction. After experiencing these situations a few times, I realized something important: you don't owe anyone an answer just because they asked. If you don't want to talk about something, you don't have to. Whether it's a joke, a vague response, or a firm but polite refusal, you have the right to set your boundaries. And guess what? That's totally fine. You don't have to explain yourself every time, and that's an important lesson to learn. Now, whenever I get one of those awkward questions, I don't stress. I just handle it, move on, and keep the conversation going. Have you ever been in a situation like this? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories and English learning tips. See you in the next video.